And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house with Evan Brand. Evan, how are we doing today, man? What's going on?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling better. I don't think I even told you about this off the air, but I had a bat house on the side of my house.
A bat
And
house?
yeah, bat house. Yeah,
Wow.
to try to get some bats to basically, take residence there so they would eat all of our mosquitoes. And they never came. And I was up on the ladder. I don't know, this is maybe 2 months ago now. And I was up on the ladder and I was unscrewing the bat house from the house. And as soon as I did that, I noticed there was a wasp nest in there. And as soon as I saw that, a wasp landed on my hand. And last time I got stung, it hurt super bad. And so I wasn't thinking straight. I thought, okay, there's a wasp on my hand. I'm going to get stung. It's going to hurt. I might shake my hand and fall backwards off the ladder. This is really bad. So I just turned around and just jumped. And it was probably not crazy high, but maybe 8 feet up. And I just jumped and just tried to cushion my fall as much as I could and kind of
Right.
roll after I
Right.
landed on the grass. But ever
Mhm.
since then, man, I've had a little bit of some cervical. I probably need to see a chiropractor. I haven't yet, but I've had like some cervical tightness. And if I sleep the wrong way, it like flares up the cervical tightness. And so I've been using some herbal anti-inflammatories and nutrients that we can dive into to help me. But I wanted to tell you that and see if you had any other suggestions of things I should be doing.
That's really great. Yeah. So we're going to be talking all about inflammation, and we'll be talking about natural herbal support to kind of help, or natural functional medicine support to help kind of reduce that inflammation. Now, structurally, in your situation, there's probably some level of inflammation directly to that area. So some level of soft tissue, whether it's active release technique or myofascial, just to kind of help with that tissue, because when it gets strained or damaged or inflamed like that, it can get a little bit fibrotic. You can get some scar tissue. It can maybe lose some blood supply and oxygenation. So getting some good movement in that tissue to kind of help with oxygenation, make it more pliable, helps. Making sure those joints are moving well. So really good chiropractic adjustment through there to make sure everything is moving well, alignment's good. So those are the first things out of the gates that I'd be pursuing, outside of, just some good soft tissue support on your own, like a good massage gun's helpful just kind of day in, day out. And then seeing a good massage therapist, maybe some red light to kind of reduce inflammation too. I think that's great out of the gates. And of course, we can kind of go into all of the different natural inflammatory support that we use typically in practice. And we'll talk about what you're using already as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I need to get back in touch with my myofascial lady. I just haven't reached out to her yet, but I think she had left town for a while. So if she's still around, I should probably try. I just got fearful. I thought, oh God, what did I do to my spine? Am I screwed forever? You hear about these people having like car wrecks. And, my wife used to work in a chiropractor's office and she would see people that were injured from 20 years ago. And I'm like, why? Like, surely it doesn't have to be that way. And I think we have some good strategies that can definitely shorten the recovery timeline. Let me just talk about the topical aspect first. This is one thing that's been very beneficial. It is a company called Ned. Hello Ned is their company. And they actually just sent it to me like a year ago, just as like a free, hey, we want you to sell our products. Here's some free stuff to try out kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
loved it so much, I bought more of it. But it's called a body butter. And it's just loaded with CBD oil and frankincense and a bunch of other essential oils. It has arnica in there. So this is just a topical body butter. And I tell you, if I put that stuff on, it's a significantly reduced pain. And
That's
my
great.
range of motion is almost 100% if I'm using that topically. So CBD, arnica, frankincense, something like that, a good blend. Or if you like buy that body butter, that might be a good option topically.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. So out of the gates, what's the first thing? So more than likely you got some kind of a mini whiplash. I'm guessing you kind of fell more into flexion, right? When you
Yep.
fell. Yeah. So you
Yes.
probably had a little whiplash because you probably went forward and then your body had to like kind of seize up to kind of stop that forward flexion.
Yep.
And so it probably just strained. You probably had a little strain in those back ligaments in the neck. And so getting some good soft tissue down back there will help. Making sure the joints are moving appropriately will help. The problem with like ligamentous tissue, it's more avascular, right? You don't get great blood supply. Where like if you strain your muscle, like a muscle belly issue, right? It's going to heal a lot faster because that tissue is just more vascular. It's got a lot more blood flow. So anytime you have avascular tissue, you really need good soft tissue support to really help break down fibrotic tissue, scar tissue, and then help that will improve oxygenation and that will improve blood flow. And of course, soft tissue and or red light therapy are all going to be amazing things to really work on the blood flow and the inflammation reduction aspect. So that's good out of the gates. And of course, like my good thing on my line, we use something called Curcumin Supreme, which is a liposomal curcumin. I like that. I think that's excellent because it has natural anti-inflammatory pathways. So like the big inflammatory pathways that you're going to see a lot of the medication use are going to be the COX pathways, right? Cyclooxygenase pathways. And so like cyclooxygenase 2 and cyclooxygenase 1 are going to be some of the big ones, right? Now we can do natural herbs to kind of help reduce COX-1 and COX-2. So COX-1 typically would be reduced by things like aspirin or NSAIDs. The problem with these things, they can be a little bit more irritating to the liver and to the gut. So maybe acutely it's okay, but chronically not the best. All right. And then we have COX-2 as well, which these were like the old fashioned like Vioxx drugs. Remember those like 15 years ago? Caused a lot of stroke and heart issues. Those are like our COX-2 pathways. So COX-1 and COX-2 are some pretty good ones, that major pathways. And of course, we have like our prostaglandin E2, which is an inflammatory pathway as well. And prostaglandin E2 is what drives constriction, and it's what causes more platelets and more stickiness to happen. And so we want to work on reducing some of those pathways. So we want to knock down prostaglandin E2. What's the best way to do that? Well, high dose fish oil or fish oil in general. Of course, a really good whole food, pasture fed kind of paleo template's going to be great. And you're going to reduce a lot of inflammation coming from conventional meats. Again, healthy grass-fed, pasture-fed meats better, right? Less arachidonic acid, which feeds that PG, that prostaglandin 2 pathway. Of course, keeping the insulin and the grains and the refined sugar, all that crap in check. All of that inflammation feeds these COX-2 and COX-1 pathways, right? And so we want to inhibit those pathways. We want to block them. So more COX-1, COX-2, the more inflammation is going down those pathways. So all the dietary crap sets the table. Like my analogy is, imagine you walk into a kitchen and the gas is on the burner. Okay, let's say it's been on for a couple hours. You smell it. Well, let's say you pull out your lighter, right? Just a little spark, boom, house is going to explode. Okay, but if you did it without the gas there, no explosion. Well, it's the same thing. If you have the gasoline going, that's a systemic inflammation from all of these things we chatted about that allows the little spark of an injury like that to set off this whole inflammatory cascade that's going to be a lot more, let's just say, amplified in the wrong direction, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So let's kind of spotlight some of the key ingredients that we use here. Now, some of these we can provide to our clients and to me personally in blends, and then some of them we can do in isolation. So I think the best one, or kind of the best combo for me, is really some of the enzymes, and then plus turmeric and the boswellia. I think that's been kind of my game changer, because I noticed that when I added some extra serrapeptidase into my system, I have a blend I'm using that has some in there, but when I added extra serrapeptidase and also some lumbrokinase, my issues definitely, I would say I felt definitely more mobile, like I had more blood flow. And then of course my hands and feet were warming up too. So I just know from like a circulation standpoint that that's also helping. And then we know that turmeric has like an anticoagulating ability. So whether it's like a turmeric tea, or like you mentioned, a liposomal product, or even just like a standardized curcuminoid product, something like that is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I like it. So if we kind of break things down by COX-1, COX-2, there's also the LOX pathway. That's like the leukotriene pathway, or the lipooxygenase pathway. All right. So lipooxygenase versus cyclooxygenase. These are both going to be inflammatory pathways. So if we start with like the COX-1 pathways, things like ginger are also going to be very helpful on that. So ginger is really good. Excellent. You can also do things like you mentioned, lumbrokinase or serrapeptidase. That's going to just sit in your bloodstream. You're taking it away from food. It's not like a digestive enzyme. And that's going to help hit all these inflammatory chemicals that are in the bloodstream. It's going to start breaking them down and digesting them. And we already talked about the fact that we have a lot of platelet aggregation. So what that means is over time, those platelets are going to increase scar tissue and decrease blood flow. So what the enzymes are going to do is they're going to break up those platelets. It's going to help improve blood flow, improve oxygenation, and improve nutrition. So, and it's also going to decrease scar tissue formation. So part of the enzymes are helping blood flow. They're reducing, they're increasing oxygenation, and they're reducing scar tissue. So then it helps a lot of the other nutrients also work better. So we already talked about like Some of the COX-1 stuff is going to be ginger. We talked about that already. Some of the COX-2 things are going to be things like curcumin, liposomal curcumin. In my line, I have one called Curcumin Supreme, which is a really good one. And then you already mentioned a couple things earlier, like frankincense or boswellia. That's also going to be another cyclooxygenase inhibitor. And the thing I like about boswellia or frankincense, it's the same thing, by the way, guys. Frankincense is the essential oil version of that. Frankincense, you can kind of put topically on it, and then you can also take boswellia internally, so you can kind of hit it from both ends, which is really good.
Yeah. Also omegas. I am boosting up my omegas. I'm doing about 5 grams per day of a pure omega. That's my formula. It's a triglyceride form of omegas. It works amazing. And then also I'm doing extra quercetin just to really help. You know, I've had some histamine issues after getting exposed to mold. So for me, I do quercetin with an enzyme. There's a special enzyme we use. It's a quercetin enzyme blend that I love. And I actually may start manufacturing it soon. But for now, I'm just mixing these. And the quercetin for me is a mast cell stabilizer. Now, I don't know about like trauma necessarily, physical trauma, aggravating mast cells and creating a histamine release, but it would make sense if there's a stress response from the body, you may be pulling out more histamine. I'm thinking of like I don't know, a car crash or some sort of immediate trauma. You're probably going to have some histamine to really help increase inflammation, but overall, you don't want that long term.
100%. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. So there's other pathways you mentioned, right? So the quercetin, like you mentioned earlier, that's going to help with the TNF alpha pathway. So TNF alpha is another inflammatory cytokine. So think of a lot of these cytokines, they're like inflammatory chemical messengers. We have cytokines, we have interleukins, we have nuclear factor kappa beta, we have TNF alpha. These are all these chemical signalers. And so when we have inflammation happen, these type of chemical messengers can amplify inflammation, the effects of inflammation systemically. And the problem with inflammation is it's helpful in the short run because it helps drive blood flow and helps the healing repair process. The problem is when it hangs around too long, right? So for like an acute injury, it's probably good. I think part of the reason why that pain and inflammation is there is to keep you on your butt so you're not continuing to damage that area. So I think part of it is it's, hey, you hurt yourself. Let's kind of like rest a little bit, right? Part of it's that. It's also going to aggregate a lot of immune cells to help heal the injury, prevent an infection. It's also there to help with healing the body up, right? Because the body is not about performance when it's injured. It's about band-aiding the crap out of that area. So the problem with that is the body doesn't care if it laid down a whole bunch of scar tissue and that area is now going to be less flexible and less mobile. It just wants the body to heal. So now you have to say, well, I'm also interested in performance too, right? So then you have to look at the fact that like, okay, I'm going to reduce inflammation. I probably should still be less mobile, moving less because my body wants me to move around less. I'm reducing the inflammation pain naturally, but I still have to make sure I don't overdo it. So you have to make sure if you reduce the inflammation, you still don't overdo it because your body's creating that pain to keep you from not moving as much. You probably want some movement, but not as much to hurt yourself. And then number two, you really want to remodel that inflammatory scar tissue. And that's where, massage, soft tissue work, adjusting, maybe some rolling, some foam rolling, gentle things like that to kind of help realign that soft tissue so it's more functional and structurally stable. That's better in the long run.
Oh yeah, good point. I forgot to mention that it's not called the Theracane, but it's similar. I've got this wooden, came from like a physical therapy office. It's a wooden cane basically, and it's got the wheels on it. I've been kind of digging that into my upper mid back area, kind of working my traps. I've been just doing some light stretches. I've been doing some lateral pull downs. I love lat pull downs. I've been doing some seated rows. I've been doing my row machine. So just gently trying to work the area. And I do that after I take these enzymes. And I do notice that it definitely warms up the area and I do feel more loose. So I'm trying to think of, you and I always talk about, you have this stacking effect, right? You've got the anti-inflammatory diet as the foundation. You've got the omegas coming in to hopefully help lubricate, reduce inflammation. We've got the anti-histamine, anti-mast cell quercetin. We've got the ginger working on the COX pathway. You've got the turmeric. You've got the boswellia. I mean, that's just really the synergistic thing here. And I haven't taken a single aspirin. So I'm not actually in pain anymore. But like I said, if I sleep wrong, it might kind of flare me up. So I don't think I'm fully out of the woods yet, but I think I'm 95% there.
Correct. That's good. So in general, we kind of have our COX pathways, right? Now, arachidonic acid can feed those pathways. So a lot of excess omega-6, junky refined omega-6, excess junky animal products can definitely feed those pathways. That sets the table. Like I mentioned, gas in the kitchen, right? The little spark can take it off. And then we have our natural herbals like ginger can help with COX-1. Fish oil is excellent for COX-2 at high doses. Now, if you do high doses of fish oil, you can increase what's called lipid peroxidation because fish oil is a polyunsaturated fatty acid. It's more unstable, right? It's got a lot of these, it's got more double bonds in it, right? Omega-3 means 3 double bonds. The more double bonds that are there, the more unstable the fatty acid is to heat and things like that. The more, let's say, it can be oxidized. So having extra vitamin C or extra vitamin E on board when you're taking extra fish oil just to make sure you don't have oxidation is great. And we already talked about things like systemic enzymes. We talked about curcumin, liposomal curcumin is better due to the absorption, or something with black pepper in it helps with the absorption too. We already talked about things like frankincense or boswellia is great. You could always do some white willow bark, which is kind of how aspirin is naturally made, right? Aspirin works more on COX-1. So aspirin is going to be your other natural source. And you could do white willow bark, which is the natural form of aspirin, which is great. There are things like Tylenol, but Tylenol works more on the central nervous system perception, right? So it decreases the nervous system's perception of pain. And then, of course, at the extreme example, we have opiates, which block the pain receptors in the brain, the opiate receptors in the brain. Not the best thing because you're just decreasing perception of pain. Obviously, the opiates are way more addictive, right? But we can block some of these natural pain perceptions with CBD oil. So CBD is another great way to reduce perception of pain. But we got to be careful of, Tylenol or things like opiates. Opiates due to their addictive qualities, and Tylenol actually chronically can reduce glutathione. You can just type in Tylenol and low glutathione level. So if you're taking Tylenol longer term, you definitely want to take it with NAC and or some glutathione just to be on the safe side. But in general, we want you trying to do more of the herbals and more of the natural stuff out of the gates because that really, really, really can help reduce inflammation.
Yeah, well said. Yeah. And the acetaminophen glutathione thing, yeah, it's a big problem. So that's why I stayed away. So people listening, if you're didn't jump off a ladder like me and you've got osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis or a sports injury, or you're just trying to heal up, maybe post-operation, these things we talked about today may be something to implement. And then obviously working on all the other root causes too, because you are not just what you eat, you are what you digest from what you eat. So if you're doing all these good nutrients, but you've got some type of malabsorption issue in the gut, you've got ridges on your fingernails, you've got thinning hair, falling out hair, you may need to look deeper at the gut and try to find some of these more root cause issues that led you to that amount of inflammation or slow recovery in the first place. So if you need to reach out, please do so. Our websites are justinhealth.com. That's for Dr. J, who works worldwide via phone, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, whatever. And then me, Evan Brand, evanbrand.com. So justinhealth.com, evanbrand.com. Please reach out if you need help. We love helping you guys. This is just a wonderful situation that we're in to be able to help people across the globe get solutions to their health issues.
Absolutely. And one last thing to comment is people talk about, we know about cortisone and prednisone injections, right, for chronic pain, right? This is a common thing. Well, what's our natural cortisone? What's our natural anti-inflammatory? Well, our adrenals. So if you have weaker adrenals going into this stuff, you may not be able to make good amounts of our natural kind of anti-inflammatory hormones like cortisol or cortisone, right? This is important. Now, I had a family friend come up to me recently that had chronic pain issues and was asking me some questions about things. And they were telling me, oh, I just got a cortisone injection. It's doing really great right now. I said, well, number one, that's a really big mistake. I said, you can do a cortisone injection only one if it's really debilitating and you need that to buy you time to fix the underlying issue. The problem with any injections of steroids is they start breaking down the tissue and the cartilage and the ligaments and the bone and the joint. And actually over time, they'll stop giving you cortisone injections in an area after 2 or 3 injections sometimes. So then now what? Now you're kind of stuck. So the only way I ever support a cortisone injection is if that's buying you time to do all the other stuff and the pain is so debilitating, you're just doing that to buy you time. Because if you're not figuring out and doing all the other stuff while that cortisone's working, you're just going to just repeat its pattern over again 3 to 6 months later. And that's not a good situation. So ideally, you maximize the low hanging fruit. Hopefully you won't have to go to that. And then if you have to go to it, you at least use that time to do more of the right things regarding soft tissue, chiropractic work, anti-inflammatory. There's another device we use here. We'll put a link below for the Newbie device, which is a bioelectric device that I have and I use that helps reduce inflammation with special bioelectric wavelengths, electricity wise, that reduce inflammation, improve blood flow, help improve the muscle integrity in that area. So the muscles take over the stress the joints and the ligaments and the cartilage would normally absorb, right? We want our shocks to absorb the force, not the sensitive material in the vehicle, so to speak, right? We have shocks for a reason. Think of shocks in your body as like muscles. Think of the sensitive tissue as ligaments and cartilage, right? Those are going to be more avascular, right? Poor blood flow. The muscles more vascular. So let the vascular shocks absorb most of that issue, most of the inflammation and force. So I'll put the link down below for that too, so you guys have that for references. Evan, anything else, man?
Yeah, the sauna. The sauna's been helping me too. I love sitting in there. Yeah, that obviously warms me up too. So I have the infrared heaters in the front and then the ceramic around the edges. So I do try to rotate, make sure that the infrared does hit my back, and it does help me quite a bit. So that's also another beneficial thing. Epsom salt baths are very helpful. Potentially using a flotation tank, a float tank with just tons of Epsom salt in there, magnesium.
Yeah, magnesium.
That's also another great strategy. So hope this helps people, and take good care of yourself. Like I said, if you need to reach out, please do. justinhealth.com or evanbrand.com. I look forward to helping you soon.
We'll put recommended products down below so you guys can see that and take advantage of the things that we use clinically for our family, ourselves, and our patients worldwide. Guys, have a